Hi folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a subject that I've covered a number of times before, but another recent example or the details of it have come up. And this is where you get a collection, or what's happened is activists have penetrated just about every aspect and corner and nook and cranny of the wider legal establishment, whether it's just practicing lawyers on the street, bush lawyers, prosecutors departments, legal aid lawyers, attorney general's departments, law reform societies, many activist NGOs that are all across this, and also the feminist groups and the like that have a lot of pull and traction and influence in various quarters of the political establishment and of course the legal establishment in particular. Now, the beginning ideological point is that there are various oppressed groups and within society. Now, remember, these are the richest, most well-off, most protected societies in the world, first world Western societies. So the idea there's oppressed groups here is in itself something of a stretch, and it must be completely relative. But nonetheless, the beginning ideological point is there are these oppressed groups which must be protected, and the oppressors must be punished, must be severely punished. So who are these oppressors? Well, they're ideologically determined. So the oppressor group is an ideological sort of characterization of an imaginary group of oppressors. They're not actual oppressors. Now, you could point out somebody maybe here or somebody there, but they want to see it as an ideological miasma, a morass. This entire group are oppressors. And if they're not oppressing somebody right now, today or yesterday or something like that, then they did generations previously. And what about slavery, for example? Now, in gender studies type courses, that they'll go back thousands of years. You know what? This is what men in ancient Greece did, or men in ancient Rome did. The wickedness of it. And men today must pay for, and things like that. And white people today must pay for slavery that was 500 years ago. And this sort of stuff. Now, it's very sort of uniquely that really the only group in the world that can be held to this level of accountability are straight white men. No other group can be held to this same level of only straight white men. And so these are the primary scalps that the activists go after. So I'll talk about how this can happen and what can happen. But in order to, given the fanatical desire to go after this group, they've lowered the bar, the activists and the activists that have infiltrated all the institutions that once were upholding the law. They're now primarily interested in punishing the oppressor group, not necessarily protecting the oppressed group. They're just the means, the excuse, if you like, to go after the oppressor group, which again is an imaginary characterization of the far right. And it's people that don't exist, so they imagine these oppressors into existence, and in the midst of this imagination, they then similarly imagine the punishments they'll mete out. So I'll jump into this one here, and I'll give you this is a real life example. I won't mention names of the people, but as I understand that there's still legal proceedings associated with this. But so here's a workplace which is primarily has women working there. There are a lot of drug taking and very fragile people in this sort of business, and so this confused woman who's a lot of drug problems, alcohol problems, relationship problems, and so on. She loses her job, and so she goes to sort of a women's support group, which is run by a well-known activist lesbian academic, funded by an NGO group, which gets tax-free status. And this lesbian academic, gender studies academic, convinces this woman that her problem isn't that she's got issues with drugs and alcohol and this and that, and she's a very fragile person. No. Really, her concern is that in the workplace, men were attempting to rape her and indecently assault her. That's her problem. It's them. It's their fault. They did it. And so she, yeah, hey, it's not my snorting coke off the toilet. See, no, that's not the issue. It's those men did it to me, those oppressors. So she is encouraged to go and go to a media outlet to say what happened, because some of the people that are in the workplace are quite well-known public figures. So seeing an opportunity here for a big, some big straight white male scalps, she's encouraged to go to the media. Now, what isn't, this is where the interconnected nature of all this is really exposed. The lesbian studies, gender studies academic, is having an intimate lesbian relationship with the woman who heads up the social affairs department of this media outlet. That's not declared here. So one lesbian's referring this troubled, vulnerable woman to another lesbian, and their decision is to exploit her for the ideological gains that they can get out of this. So the media outlet then runs an article smearing the man who's or the men, but primarily one man, and so it was his fault. He's the one. He's a rapist, and he's a indecent assaulter of women, and an oppressor, and far right, and has swastikas emblazoned on his ass or something. So this total invented sort of caricature type character is invented into existence, and he's the arch oppressor of helpless women. So now it's not disclosed a relationship between the woman, the lesbian academic that ginned it all up, and her lesbian partner who's reporting on it. That should have come out, but it wasn't. So then the relationship between the legal department in the media outlet and the relationship that they had with the local prosecutors department. A lot of the people have just crossed over. They all work. People that work in the media legal department also worked in the prosecutors department. They all come from the same crowd. They all run together. These are all activists together. They've all a complete group of activists have just infiltrated all these places, and they just do a round robin of working back and forth. So they'll, these activists will be working in the media, a major media staff. Then they'll go and work in a politician's office, say attorney generals. Then they'll go and work in a prosecutor's department. Then they'll be in the legal aid department. Then they'll work at an NGO. Then back to the prosecutor's office. So this is just a round robin of the same people who are all hanging out. They're all going to the same social events together, the same activist events. They're all placard wavers on the street about whatever is the big, cool issue of the day. So these aren't independent operators examining evidence and looking at it. Now, the prosecutor's department then tells the police department, "You got to look into this." And so, but this goes to a special department within the police that specialises in supposed rape or alleged rape of women. They're not really interested if it's a brown man or a black man. They're only really interested if it's a white man, straight white man. They're the scalps they want. So, and again, they're going after these people, these straight white men, based on ideology, not on facts, not on evidence, not on verifiable facts or anything like that. They're going after them purely for ideology, which means they have to invent the facts. As if you pursue someone ideologically through the legal system, then you must invent the facts and or lower the bar of evidence. So an allegation becomes a fact; it transmutes into a fact. Whereas the claims and charges against black and brown men tend to be pretty watertight. Lots of evidence, that they can just settle that one up pretty easily. But with the white guy, it's a he said, she said. It's a maybe. It's a low bar. It's an ideological construction. So anyway, the claim is that this man tried to rape a work colleague some 7 years previous. Now the woman who's making the claim says, well, I was at this women's support group, and then finally it crystallized my mind that really I had been kind of raped. He attempted to rape me. So was it an error rape? Well, she didn't know, but she admits indirectly that it was the activist lesbian gender studies agitator that stirred her up into this state of mind. But that didn't come out in the media articles. It came out later, but not in the media. So the prosecutors department decides to take it up. There's a bunch of activists there, and again, they've got a very low bar of evidence to run with. So they don't apply even basic. Now, somebody like a first year probationary police officer or a first year law student could have debunked this whole legal case within minutes. As it came out in the court case later on, and I'll come to that in a minute, the claims, the events that supposedly had occurred that could have been construed at a stretch as being possible indecent behaviour. This was proven to not be possible. That the event didn't take place on that day or even that week. The person who claimed to be there being indecently assaulted wasn't even working. They were out on some vacation during that time, and then or the person who's supposed to be doing it was actually unwell and off sick for that time, and so on. So that really none of it stood up under scrutiny, none of it. And cases where there was meant to be an indecent moment, that was proven to be a promo advertisement where the characters had all been, photoshopped in. It wasn't an actual event, so that hadn't occurred. So really, so it was proven that there was no substance, and this was easily provable. Just some hours even of nailing down times and dates and places and who was there and when they were there and when someone else was there, then the whole case would have fallen to pieces under basic 101 student level police investigation. But instead, they didn't do any of that. The prosecution department decided to run with it on the allegation alone. Now, this woman who was making the allegation felt a little bit alone and isolated, so she went to other women in the group who also were unemployed at the time and said, hey, why don't you say that he did this to you as well? These people were then brought in to be interviewed by the media, by the prosecution department. A lot of people fussing over them. The idea that they can be in the media with victim stories, they can write a book, they can get book deals, they can be paid for appearances on talk shows. Wow, this sounds all right. So, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And that also, so this is conspiracy to commit perjury. This should be a very serious offence. Because this is what it was. I mean, let's call it by its name. It was conspiracy to commit perjury and to bear false witness against, in this case, an innocent man. But no one cared about that. In the pell-mell rush and hysterical sort of pursuit of things, no one cared. We're out to get a fucking evil oppressor here. That's what we're at. We're the just people. He's the Nazi. And this was the prevailing sort of attitude that was running through this. And so it gets to trial. It should never have got to trial, but it gets, and they magically, and quite coincidentally, I'm sure, they get an activist female judge to hear the case, who's very much part of this Metoo movement. So you couldn't have got. The idea of getting an impartial judge to hear the case would have been paramount, you think, by any justice department. But the Attorney General's department is also infiltrated completely with activists. As is the court administration. So we've got to get this guy, but there's no real evidence he did. Who fucking cares? So they decided to appoint an activist judge, even though the case was piss weak. They decided to appoint an activist judge. Maybe they could get a conviction out of it. Yeah, who knows? So. Now the media is continuing to run here with really ginning up the hyperbole and using the standard sort of practice of indirect and oblique association. He was known, to have said to little Janie that she had a cute ass, that type of thing. So they litter or put the media out and listen. Well, hey, look at if he said that, he must be guilty, and trying to do it that way, the same way that they do far right and is reported to have had swastikas in his, that type of thing. No proof, no evidence, just assertions. And a very, very low bar, of course. Now, the evidence was very vague and circumstantial. They worked in the same workplace, for example, but that doesn't mean anything. So now the man was, as soon as the accusations hit the media, the man was fired from his employment, and given the nature of his employment and he was unable to get any other alternative employment. So. He's sort of a reasonably high flyer, I guess. So he's a public figure, which is why they wanted his scalp. But he had to find more than $500,000, close to $600,000, to fund his legal case, whereas all his accusers were funded either by legal aid or by the taxpayer or an NGO. They were getting support persons and support groups, all funded by NGOs. So they didn't have to shell out a penny. And they were getting put up in nice hotels at the and so on. So they'd have been quite overwhelmed by the attention and the positive support they were getting from the ideological fanatics. But now, when it came to trial, though, and you look at read the some of the transcript type evidence, you're almost gobsmacked. You say, well, how could this have got to trial? So the activist police unit somehow waved it through, the prosecutors unit waved it through, the attorney generals waved it through, the judge that should have looked at it and thought, I'm not trying this. This is crap. I'm throwing it out. That was all waved through. So none of the safeguards, given the mad ideological zealotry of the whole thing, none of the safeguards that are in place to stop this very sort of thing happening, they don't exist anymore. They've been infiltrated by activists top to bottom who safeguards justice, the due legal process, facts, evidence. You're kidding. That's all bullshit. We're out to punish the oppressors. So this ideological insanity prevails from top to bottom and left to right and up and down. And so none of the protections that are built in or were once built in, and you look at the allegations are so improbable as to be absurd, and yet these are part of the charge sheets. The police and the prosecutors are actually using the charge. Now they're doing the January 6th and all this type stuff, which is very common now today. They're stacking the whole thing with a million allegations, no matter how probable they are. So just trying to, well, something might stick. We don't know what. We'll just shotgun the whole thing. We'll just throw it all up against the wall and hope that something sticks. It doesn't. We just need one thing to stick, and then we've got the guy nailed. It doesn't matter if we've made up a whole bunch of stuff, and it puts him in a difficult situation in the witness box. He has to deny 1,000 things. So any jury's going to look at, well, you probably did something of that, and which is how, of course, they used to go after Trump in New York. You just create an endless sort of slew of allegations and accusations and hope that at least something will get through, which is, again, an ideological approach. Now, some of the allegations were again, transcended absurd. Things like Janie overhears that Betty said, that Debbie said, that so-and-so said that so-and-so overheard so-and-so saying that so-and-so said that he pinched Jackie's ass. Now, hearsay of hearsay of hearsay of hearsay of hearsay, that ends up as evidence on a charge sheet. You're kidding me. But that's the standard of evidence they had against this guy. Other situations where there were claims where when they were cross-examined by the man's lawyer, I don't remember when it happened. I don't know where it happened. Who else was there? I don't remember that. Well, what exactly? No, I don't know. I can't remember. And so many of the charges on the charge sheet were dismissed on the basis of couldn't remember. Now, interestingly, the judge kept interjecting to help these female witnesses. Now, that only happens in this is a criminal trial, remember? Criminal trial. This guy can go to prison for a long time. Now, in the things like the divorce courts, where you get ideological fanatics running there, the judge will regularly intercede to help the woman along and say, well, it doesn't matter if you don't remember. We know he's naughty and guilty, isn't he? Oh, yes, he is. Well, but in a criminal trial, you're kidding me. So the judge be regularly interceding. Well, it doesn't really matter if Miss Smith doesn't remember. She, it's emotionally true. She remembers it emotionally, if not factually. Things like that. I mean, fuck, this is a criminal trial. So again, in just clearly demonstrating the activism of the entire process, and of course the judge. Now they couldn't actually pin anything on this guy. Not one of the allegations on the charge sheet stood up. All of them fell apart under cross-examination. Now, it was a case that went for 3.5 years. The guy won in the end and was managed to get costs and exonerated. But the judge made a strange closing comment in the judgment that really, okay, we couldn't get him, but he just got off on really a series of technicalities, which is very much the activist position here. If Donald Trump's declared innocent, then he got off on a technicality. If he's declared guilty, we always knew he was guilty. And it's the same attitude here, that this guy got off on a mere technicality. We all know the straight white men are the oppressors ideologically. So the fact this guy didn't get done is technical, just a technical legal matter, that's all. And if we just lower the protections and lower the thing where facts don't matter at all, then we can throw all these men in prison. And this was so the judge made this thing that even though the guy was exonerated, that it's kind of a technicality that got him off. And this was then used quite extensively by the media to say, well, see, hey, he really was guilty. It's just that our legal system's too screwed up and protects these oppressors. When that was nothing of the sort. Not one of the charges stood up to even basic scrutiny. And again, a first-year law student could have taken this case to pieces. You didn't need to be a frontline lawyer to destroy this. It should never have got to court. Should never have happened. But this is sort of now the guy remains to this day remains unemployed, and so a fairly sterling career going for over 25 years. Has been ruined. It's hard to see that they'll recover. The establishment that went after him refuses to concede that he was innocent. They just a technicality. See, the judge even said so, and so they're treating him again as if he was guilty. But what was he guilty of? What are these allegations? Let's assume that the allegations were true. What is he guilty of? Well, he's guilty of no more than dry humping and ass pinching. That's it. Now, they're not true, and they've been shot down in flames in court when the facts came out. But even if it was true, does this mean that he should go to prison? Does this mean that his life and career should be ruined? Well, I don't think so. Now, I'm not recommending anyone goes around ass pinching or dry humping or anything, but nonetheless, should that mean the total? Now, what about the false allegations made by these women? What about the lesbian academic activists that ginned them all up? What about all these people knowing each other between the media and the lesbian relationships and the activism and the very clearly coordinated campaign to go after this guy? Why aren't those people being held to account? Why aren't they losing their jobs and their careers for subverting the law and engaging in conspiracy to commit perjury in a criminal court? Why aren't they so? Well, they're not, and they've suffered no penalty at all. So This is very concerning for obvious, and as I see it, the burden of proof is swinging more and more over to where no matter how false, vague, or fanciful the allegation against the man is, he still has to prove it's not true. And the burden of proof is much higher. For example, the women or the accusers can say, "Well, we're so stressed, but we can't be in the same room as him because it's so dangerous." Even though these women were exchanging texts and emails with this guy and his associates up to days previously. So if they were afraid, why were they there? But that wasn't allowed by the court. No, you don't have to answer those questions. That's all right, and you can give remote evidence from a video link. Well, can he give remote evidence? No, you have to be in court, you evil, villainous motherfucker. They're the oppressed ones. You're the oppressor. And they're referred to constantly throughout the legal case or the court case as victims. But nothing's been proved at that point. So that's an automatic device to prejudice the case against the accused in a criminal trial. So this is insane, but it's becoming more and more widespread. But I just wanted to do this to indicate the low bar, the very low bar of evidence required to bring these things into court. And again, the extensive charge sheets, which are designed to let's just throw everything we can at it, and hopefully something will stick. But there's no one stepping in to stop it. No politicians, no attorney generals, no one's no police, no one's stepping in to give this oversight or to stop it. In fact, they're all going along with it, and it's getting worse. You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.